Welcome to GC Connect. Hmm, hmm, this is related to your estimation and the costing of the building. Maybe uh, we have almost covered the first module. Um, some of the classes I have handled in your class, and some of the problems related to the building estimation using the central line method and long wall and short wall method. I already sent to you. Go through each and every problem and try to uh, estimate and cross verify the answers. If you have any doubts, get back to me as soon as possible. um, some of the notes I have already sent to you, um, um, by taking the screenshots from the textbooks. uh, Today I'll summarize the whatever the details required for the building estimation, and maybe these questions they will ask mm, in your theory part, how we are going to do the estimation. So that is why I prepared one PPT and I am sending to you. This is similar to what you have done in your uh, 7th semester bachelor degree. So in the 7th semester bachelor degree you might have studied the detailed estimation of the building. So that is also good. Even you can refer this as well as your 7th semester notes for the first module and the second module, and the fourth, fifth, and sixth module, fifth, third, fourth, fifth module. It will totally different that you have not studied in your BA degree. But for the first two modules, you can restrict to the B degree portion itself. Of course, you have studied the method of estimates by using long wall and short wall method, central line method. So one more method called partially central line and partially long wall and short wall method. So, so now um, we will start with uh, many things whatever I am covering today, but still when you are writing the answers for each of the questions, you should know what to write. So now the whatever the definition and the requirements, what are the major requirements? Estimation is a technique of calculating or computing the various quantities and the expected expenditure to be incurred on a particular work or the project. Then the following are the requirements. First one is in drawings. In drawings you require plan, elevation, section at different points. Second one is detailed specifications about the workmanship and properties of the materials. Third one is standard schedule of the rates of the current year. Normally we'll use the PWD book for determination of various price rates for each of the quantities and detailed specifications. So what is the need of estimation and costing? So estimate gives an idea of the cost of the work, and hence its feasibility can be determined whether the project could be taken up with in the funds available or not. So it estimate gives an idea of time required for the completion of the required time management. So then the third one is regarding the tenders, and the fourth one is estimate is also required to control the expenditure during the execution of the work. This estimate also decides whether the proposed plan matches with the funds available or not. These are some of the three different steps you have to follow when you are doing the estimating. First one is preparing the detailed estimate, calculating each of the work, and preparing the abstract. I'll tell you what is the abstract. Abstract it is like a summary of the work or the estimate you have carried out. Maybe I have already sent you the abstract and the detailed estimate. Go through the notes which I have already sent to you mm, in your previous classes. There you can see the table, uh, and I have given one example also, what is the detailed estimate and what will be the abstract of the estimate. Some of the data required. Uh, if the drawings are not clear, it is very difficult to find out to or to estimate the cost of the building. So first, very important thing is that the drawing should be clear. So you have two types of specifications. First one is general specifications. Second one is the detailed specifications. So the general specifications involves the nature, quality, class of the work, materials of the general items. Here we are not covering what will be the ratio, what will be the things only. It is the item works we are covering here. Detailed estimation involves the detailed description of various items of work, laying down the quantities and qualities of the materials and their proportions, and the method of preparation of workmanship and the execution of the work. Uh, for preparing the estimate, so units rate for each of the item is required. For example, steel quantity we are measuring in terms of quintals, per quintal or per ton of steel, what will be the price. Next, for concrete, how much cubic meter of concrete, for example, per cubic meter, what will be the rate. That is what the per unit requirement. Second one is how much is the rate for arriving each of those elements or the steel or the items which you required for your work. Third one is the rates of various materials to be used in the construction. Then the cost of transported materials. First, transportation it is. Next, the labor. The last one is labor, skilled, unskilled, masons, carpenter. So, among all these, mm, the last one is very important, and nowadays, mm, the first 4 points compare with the fifth point. The fifth point needs to be taken care of, because normally, nowadays, if you try to find out the total cost of the building, you are getting 50% for the materials and 50% for the labor, for the carpenters. That is what is happening. So if you are mm, making a proper management in managing the last point, so you can save a lot of money in your building estimation. And nowadays, a lot of optimization techniques they are doing in the last part of your this rates. This is the total complete estimate of the building. This is the tree you can see. If you complete all these things, this is the total complete estimate of the building. But in our building, normally what we'll do is that we'll consider only the cost of the structure, and we will leave the other cost of the land and some of the contingencies of the building, and some of the legal expenses of the building. So, what is a lump sum? So, while preparing an estimate, it is not possible to work out in detail in case of a lot of items other than civil engineering structural works. So, normally, other than the civil engineering structural related elements which we are calculating, some of the other things like water supply and sanitary requirements, electrical installations, some of the architectural features, and some of the contingencies which are not included in your estimation has to be taken care of. That will be considered as the lump sum requirement of the building estimate. Of course, some of the um, unforeseen means like labors. You cannot classify the labors like class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5 labors. So we will categorize only labor, mm, for this much 250 rupees per day, or 300 rupees per day. So that kind of things we will include into the lump sums. Then work charge establishment. So during the construction of the project, considerable number of skilled supervisors, work assistants, watchmen are employed on temporary basis. So the salary of these persons are to be drawn from the um, LS amount allotted towards the work charged establishment. Uh, that is, established wages charged directly to the work, and LS amount is around 1.5 to 2% of the estimated cost towards your um, total cost of the building. It is 1.5 to 2% of the building has to be kept separate for these peoples. Of course, so this we already covered in the classes. So go through each and every point. As for the IS 12,500, this is a revised one. What kind of units we are using it, and the payment how we are or rates how we are calculating each of the work. Of course, this is roofing, what will the cubic meter, plastering, and all those things. So these are some of the methods we already covered in our previous classes. So go through this center line method, and we solved some of the problems also in the class, and I have sent you some of the problems. This is partially center line and partly cross wall method. So this one is long wall and short wall method. So then this is very important. Types of estimate. First one is detailed estimate, and the second one is approximate estimate. So detailed estimate, maybe we'll directly go to the detailed estimate. um, is consist of two stages. First one is details of the measurements and the calculation of the quantities, and the second one is abstract of the estimated cost. Once you calculated the each measurement and the calculation of the quantities, so finally you have to summarize all those rates in a small table, and you have to say that for earthwork is this much, RCC work is this much, um, plastering is this much. So maybe in the previous slides I have covered with some of the major items like that. You have to prepare it and you have to do it. Maybe the table is there at the end, you can see that. So detailed measurements and calculation of the quantities. To complete the work is divided into various items of work like earthwork, concreting, brickwork, RCC, plastering, etc. So the details of the measurements are taken from the drawings and entered in a respective column of a prescribed format, and you have to strictly follow that table format only. The quantities are calculated by multiplying the various values that are in numbers of columns to depth, which shown below. So you can see you have to strictly follow this table. The first one is serial number, like one serial number. Second one, description of the item, for example excavation, earthwork calculation. So how many numbers are there, what will length, what will the breadth, what will depth, so total quantity in meter cube. So then the last one is explanatory notes. That is very important when you are calculating or when you are doing um, the estimation of the building. Normally we will not write any explanatory notes for each of the items of the work, but make sure that you write it each of those notes. This is a detailed estimate, and this is the abstracted form. Here you can see that um, item number is there, description is there, total quantity is there, means you don't have any length, breadth and width. So only we are writing the quantity, and you are writing the units, and we are writing the rate and how much is the unit, then total amount. This is the abstract. For example, if your detailed estimate is around 4 to 5 pages, so then you have to summarize it like this in one page, and you have to submit it, and you are not supposed to deviate from this. So this format I have already sent to you, and some of the forms are available where in the government offices, or we will follow form number 1, form number 2, form number 3 when you are calculating the building estimate. So go through that, which I have already sent to you in the previous classes. So this is regarding the RCC works. So then RCC works, how we are going to calculate it, which are the percentages we will deduct it when you are calculating the steel reinforcement or RCC work. So then electrification is a very important component nowadays. So for engineers, so elementary knowledge of electrical installation in building is essential. Normally we will avoid this part because, and we will give it to contracts. If you go to any buildings, normally um, um, nobody will because we are not aware of that much about this electrifications, because it is little bit less bothered for the civil engineers, but it has to be taken care of. For example, if you are taking one bulb, what will be the watt, how much um, uh, light it will give, how much energy it is consuming, how much energy I can save. See, nowadays we have one subject called energy and building. Means what? Um, each of the building, how much energy is utilizing by each of the components of your building. For example, your tile is there. Tile, how much uh, oh, energy it is absorbing, how much energy it is releasing. For example, one is ventilation system. Where to provide the ventilation system? Suppose what will the direction of that? If I provide the ventilation on the right hand side of, whether I'm going to save this much of energy. Because why this energy based simulations of the buildings are um, very important nowadays is that we have one very good relation called um, um, the energy versus CO2 emission. Then what is this energy versus CO2 emission? Normally, in our India, we are purely dependent on coal-based thermal power plants. You know that due to this coal-based thermal power plants, we are releasing more carbon dioxide and more sulfur dioxide to the atmosphere. Due to that, um, there will be a lot of changes in the climate, and sudden variation in the rainfall is happening. So what the international climate change um, mm, committee is there, um, what they have decided is that mm, um, you take care of the in-house absorption of the heat, or in-house usage of um, the in-house usage of the power, whether you are able to um, optimize some of the um, electric appliances which you'll use it in your houses. Why? Because um, if you use 1 unit of power, so it is linked that how much carbon dioxide you have released to the atmosphere, because in India we are purely dependent on the coal based thermal plants. It is linked to um, the carbon dioxide emission. So that is why each unit is very important, and try to save in the in-house itself. um, so when you are designing it, so each of the items in your building, uh, calculated how much energy it is consuming, uh, so whether how much I can save the um, money from that, and how much carbon dioxide emission can be reduced. Maybe that details we'll study in detail um, when the subject, that is energy and buildings. And um, mm, suppose if you got an opportunity for optimizing the energy resources in the building, so take up that project, because a lot of fund is uh, given by the government of India to reduce the emission in the house itself, because it is totally estimated that total carbon dioxide emission in your houses is 15% of the total global emissions by the industries. Means it is a 15%, but we are neglecting all those resources. So then again, sanitary works usually consist of providing the flush type of latrines and connecting with the sewer lines of a septic tank. For estimating the number of different fittings are found, and the rates are taken up per number of supply and fixing the positions. This is overall summary of the estimation. mm. So it's just like a notes. Maybe sometimes they will ask for about 5 marks. How we are going to calculate, how we are going to calculate it, what will be the format for calculating the buildings. If they ask, you can write it on your own. And the problems, you can solve each of the problems which I have already supplied to you. um, Maybe the next class, I'll take up some more theory part of this estimates, um, and which are there in your syllabus. Thank you.